For our opening scriptures, I've taken the four most quoted scriptures about the mind, and we all know them, and just adding emphasis on what we're talking about. Isaiah 26:3. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose is stayed on thee, because he trusteth in thee. James 1:8. A double is unstable in all his ways. Romans 12:2. And be not conformed to this world, the systems that govern the world, not the worldly people, the systems that govern it. Don't be conformed to those systems, but ye be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. And Proverbs 23:7. For as he in his heart, you may be seated. I hope we're not bored with mind management and kingdom intelligence. Because as I said, this will probably be the longest series I do, because I want us to grasp every single aspect of the mind. And I don't have enough time to go to touch everything. There's so much scientific basis. Forget about biblical. But so much scientific basis that I can talk about that is mind-blowing if you understand it. Because remember, not everything is spiritual. Not everything's spiritual. Some things are physical. And understanding how the brain operates, and this lesson we're going to kind of talk on a very shallow level surface on the scientific aspects, and then flow into it. And we have this thing up here. Some of us think we have one, some of us think we don't have one. And that thing is called the brain. And it's in between this skull of ours, and this brain has billions of neurons, and they're working together, and they're firing off, and they're shaping us, because your mind is in your brain. Your brain is the organ, but the mind encompasses everything it does. So we have all these different neurons, and they're responsible for this part, and this part is for that one, and you have neurons for understanding, they're firing for scriptures, and you have billions of neurons that are constantly going off in your mind right now, and they're grabbing this, and they're grabbing that, and they're grabbing that, and they're smashing it all together and kind of giving you this idea, and what you're seeing and what you're hearing, and all these neurons depend on what's going on, what you're experiencing, and all these neurons connect together for immediate experiences. These neurons fire off when you're feeling, when you're thinking, when you're seeing, when you're doing, when you're everything. There's constantly information flowing in your brain that's telling you, hey, this is what's going on. This is what's giving you the understanding. And the more connected they are, the stronger the area of the brain will be. Now, I don't have time. We all know about left brain, right brain, and there's so many different areas I can travel down, and I don't want to bombard us with that. But I do want to point out something about how so powerful our mind is. Every time we have an experience, neurons are activated. Every time they are activated, they are elevated in a little order of importance. So they repeat. So this neuron has a little bit more of importance than that neuron, and they feed off each other. And they connect, and the more connections, the stronger they are. This is why, for example, you can recite the alphabet without thinking of it. Because our brains have been so programmed since elementary school that you don't have to think about it. Because there's been such a thought about it, your neurons are firing without you having to think about it. And they're doing something by your subconscious that you don't have to think about doing. I can remember when I first started driving, and you think about all these things of what to do, and you got to look out for this, and you got to look out for that. And I remember Pastor saying, in a couple years, you will do these things and not even know you're doing them, because they become such a habit to you. They're part of your subconscious, and you don't have to think STOP when you stop at a stop sign. You don't have to think 3-second rule when you're you don't have to think about it, because you just instantly do them. And it just becomes a part of you. And these are all those neurons that are firing, and they implant something in your brain. And they say, okay, you've done this before, and you've created something. I know what to do now, so I'm going to fire off without you having to think about it. And your brain works less and less because the neurons are firing this, and they get stronger. And repetitive action equals connection. But experience doesn't just change by creating new connections, but it strengthens existing ones. So when you experience something once, something happens. But when you constantly experience it, that gets stronger and stronger and stronger. Your neurons and these even go into our genes within our DNA. And they're so powerful, and these activity of genes have the capability of soothing you in a stressful situation or in the heat of a moment, and they can make you deal with things that you wouldn't normally do because you're so accustomed to them. It's kind of like you're so used to pain, you've gotten numb to it. It's that same area. Your neurons are firing, and they've gotten so strong, it really don't feel it anymore, but it's just doing it subconsciously. And everything you experience happens in your mind. The things you do, the people you spend time with, every feeling, every thought, automatic experiences influence the wiring of your brain and influence who you are. Everything you do affects your mind. Okay? Okay?
Maybe I can.
Maybe. All right. I'm going to tell you to do something, and I just want you to do what I tell you to do, okay? It's nothing bad, I promise, okay? Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to say silk. Silk. 20 times fast in the mic. Go ahead.
Now?
Right now.
Who's going to count it off?
I will.
Silk, I can't.
20 times. Silk.
Silk, I can't.
Just keep going.
They're going.
Oh, do you want me to use someone else?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Mason, come on. I'm sorry, Sister Debbie. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. All right, Mason, you ready for this?
Are you ready?
All right. I want you to say silk 20 times fast.
You're counting.
I'll count.
Silk.
What do adult cows drink?
Nope.
I thought adult cows drink water. Got him! See, Sister Debbie, you didn't want to be part of that, did you? Now, if you didn't catch what just happened, let me play it back for you. I had Brother Mason come up, and I asked him to say the word silk, S-I-L-K, 20 times fast. So he said it 20 times fast. We counted. Then I asked him a question. What do adult cows drink? What did he say? He said milk instead of water. Okay? So what happened? Within seconds, I got his mind going down a path that when I went a different direction, he kept going down that same path. I formed a pattern in his brain that made him think a certain way. And then when change happened, he didn't change. He kept going. And how long were you in that environment? I messed with his mind in 30 seconds. And you've been around that family for 30, 40 years? I got him tricked. His mind tricked within seconds. And you were in that relationship for how long? How long did that pain last? I got his mind altered within seconds. And yet now you've been in that pain for years. You've been in that family for generations. You've been in that environment for how long? And you think one service is going to change what you've had? Thoughts, pattern. You've had a groove with a certain thought long enough, and it got deeper, and it got deeper, and it got deeper. And we think people are going to come to the altar, pray once, and they're just going to be sanctified? It may take years for them to undo a pattern that was incorporated into their brain that they have to break. Years it may take, because they've had years of that groove being formed and that thought being formed, and it's gotten deeper and it's gotten deeper and now it's just habit now, and those neurons fire without really it's just part of the subconscious, and now you're asking them to change that, but it's gotten so deep now it takes time for that groove or that pattern to be reshaped. Seconds it took me to mess with Mason's mind. Seconds. I have two more. Typically, if I were to ask you, what does SHOP say? Shop. Okay, then I would tell you, what do you do when you come to a green light? Do you know what most of you would probably say? Stop. But what do you do when you go to a green light? You go. What did I do to you? Seconds. I did that, and I got all of you. But we've been indoctrinated for how long? We've had this form of concept for how long? You are going down this train of thought within a sentence. And yet you've had this person of negativity pour into you. You've had this person of bad influence pour into you for years and years and years. And you've had this one come in and that one come in, and that experience and that pain and that turmoil and that chaos. And no wonder why you're messed up. Because your mind's formed a certain pattern and it's hard to break. Chances are you're not going to come down here and it's going to break with a prayer. Now, it can happen. God is not above anything. But God probably will not do that, because he doesn't do that most of the time. We don't have complete sanctification where once you get up from the altar, you no longer feel that way anymore. You have to fight that battle every day. You have to fight the thought. And we're screaming for change. You may not be, but your body is, your spirit is. We're screaming, and we're yelling for change, but our mind has been so programmed from a certain pattern, and we can't break it. And that's why your ideas are being shaken. That's why your foundation is being shaken. That's why your thoughts and your concepts and everything you've been told in your life has to be shaken, because you've had patterns in your brain through years and years. And now we have to say, look, this isn't right. This was wrong. And we have to shift. And that shift is painful sometimes. And that shift takes months, sometimes years to completely shift to where you should be. You have these patterns so deep in your brain. You shaped those. You did it. You had a thought, you meditated long enough, and you just kept that, it just rut, and that got deeper and deeper and deeper. Your life will not change until your mind changes. That's why it's easy for us to miss certain things, because we travel down a pattern for a long period of time and we miss the signs. We miss warning. We miss it because we're so used to traveling down the road that we miss the warning signs that are placed. Because we've gotten in such a pattern that our mind has taken on, we don't look at the warning signs. How many times have you drove down a road and you all of a sudden, I didn't know that was there. Well, it was there the whole time. But you're so used to going down the road, you miss it. So we miss warning signs, and we miss this, and we miss that, and there's flashing lights and saying, hey, you need to stop, you need to turn around, this isn't good, but we're so focused on it, we've maximized the road and we've minimized everything else. And we're stuck in that pattern because our mind has taken it on. And you won't change until the pattern has changed. Your mind will go down that train of thought until you force it to make a change. That's why Romans 12:2, we said it. Be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Why do we have to renew our mind? So you can see the pattern, adjust the pattern, see what God has for you, and start marking off that pattern he has. But if you don't, chaos will keep coming at you. And you have to renew your mind and be like, okay, God, I've had this same thought. What is your thought on it? What's your idea on it? And you have to completely renew it because you now have gotten this information. And you've gotten that information. And now that's come up against that word that you were given. So you kind of take a step and be like, I don't know about this. I just got new information that attacks the word. And it's hard for me to sustain both because you can't, because a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. So you have two ideas. You have his word. You have a promise mixed with the facts of life, mixed with what you're doing, mixed with what your flesh sees. And they're battling, and you won't get victory until you get rid of one. And you better be careful if you get rid of the word, because you'll get victory in that, and it will create chaos because your heart has just produced it. The power of pattern. Imagine the damage that's caused when we have negative thoughts and we choose to live out our life with those. And we can easily become hypnotized into a negative groove or a negative pattern, and we go this route and we don't like this route, but it's familiar to us. And sometimes that pattern we have was given to us at birth. It's possible. Sometimes that pattern is how we were raised, how our childhood was, how we grew up, and we have this influence. We have this pattern that's constantly being fed into us. It's being fed into us, and you're a kid, and you don't know any better. You're just getting fed, and you're getting fed, and you get fed this idea and this concept, and it's okay to do this. It's not okay to do that, and you're fed, and before you're an adult, you don't know any better because you've not sought anything else out. So as an adult mind, you continue that process of pattern. But once you recognize it, you can then turn that negativity into positivity. When those positive thoughts are repeated with meditation, prayer, affirmations, and strife, then your mind will have that same thing. Because it's shaping your mind, it's making those patterns and those grooves and those neurons fire. And before you know it, it's just familiar. And there's studies done that most of us have heard of this thing that I'm about to say, but there's studies that you can actually make yourself sick by your thoughts. Your body can even heal itself with thoughts. Right? We have things like the placebo effect. It's a sugar pill that a doctor gives you and says, hey, take this and you'll feel better. It's nothing more than a sugar pill, but what have your thoughts done? Your thoughts think it's helping, so your thoughts heal your body. And then on the flip side, you can tell your mind you have something, a disease, a sickness, and your thoughts will take that on, and then you will start to feel those things. You'll start to feel what you were thinking about. Doctors will do this all the time because they know the power of the mind. Their mind is what's making them better. Their mind is what's making them sick. On any level. If you constantly wake up and say, well, I don't feel good and I'm this and I'm that, you have allowed your heart to agree with that mind, and your body is going to produce those thoughts. But if you wake up every day and say, I am healed, there is no sickness in my body, and if you meditate on those, can I tell you, your body is so powerful, and this is not arrogance, but you don't even need God. You can heal your own body. That's how powerful your mind. You will beat it physically. If you can beat it in your mind, you win. Your heart will produce it. There's a podcast that I listen to from a clinical psychologist that I listen to, and he had a guest psychologist on his podcast. Now, this lady has no form of Christianity, no form of godliness, no form of God divine healing, no supernatural nothing. Nothing that's godly. You have a psychologist that has simply taken the aspect of physical, studied the brain for years. Okay, understand there's no godliness here. Okay? This guest psychologist has been testing and performing experiments and has done studies about how powerful the mind is. One study was about how powerful your mind is and your thought life when it comes to a diagnosis of something. She had multiple patients that had the mindset about a diagnosis. They were diagnosed with something, and the patient had a mindset in such a way that their body actually healed itself from the diagnosis. Now, we're talking about diagnosis that typically you can only solve with medication or a God divine healing. But their mind was so focused on the thoughts, their body healed itself from the diagnosis that one of those two things only happened from. That's how powerful your mind is. As a man thinketh, they healed themselves simply by their imagination, by visualizing their healing. With on. What is focus? Whatever you minimize will maximize. What are you focusing on? Mind over matter. As a man, we have addictions we face. Society likes to call these addictions diseases. That's what we call them now. They're diseases. Addictions and addictions of this, addictions of that. Well, that's just a disease. But a disease is something that you have no control over. That's the definition of a disease. Your addictions are not a disease. You have full control over them. It's what you choose to do with it. You chose to do it. You chose to do that. You chose to go there. You chose to come here. Your body does not do it for you. Your body doesn't force you to go somewhere. Your body don't force you to do something. Your body craves it, yeah, but you know where you do it first? You do it in your mind first. It's done in your mind first. It's not you, body goes, does it, commits the act, and your mind's like, oh, I didn't think about that. Never will that happen. You choose whether or not you allow your body to do A, B, or C. When you're hungry, that's your body telling you, hey, I need some nourishment. I need some strength. I need this to help me. It's your choice whether you feed your body or not. It's not your body's choice. If not, it will eventually die. You will die of starvation if you don't feed the body. Same with all these other diseases that are addictions, because you have control over them. From the slavery, from the physical slavery. And then what did he have to do? They had to walk around the mountain for 40 years because God had to get the slavery mindset, the Egyptian mindset out of their minds because they couldn't go into their promised land with that mindset. So he said, fine, if you won't have a mindset for your promised land, then you're going to walk around this mountain until you do. Because you can't have slavery mindset and be where I want you to be. You can't be occupying all my blessings when you're going to be the blessing. It don't work like that. So God delivered them, but they still had a mindset of Israel. They still had a mindset of Egypt, slaves. A quote from Franklin D. Roosevelt. Men are not prisoners of fate, but only prisoners of their own mind. If it is possible to get something and you think you can, you will. If your mind agrees with it and you're determined and you seek it, you'll do whatever you want to do. You can accomplish anything if your mind's there. If you think you can't, then you won't. Our minds are the greatest gift God gave us. He gave us such a mind that we can create beauty. We can create structures. We can create things that defy things. We can come up. We can go as far as space and as deep as the oceans. And we can have all this available to us. And God's like, I'm giving you this. Use it wisely. But then our minds can also... The man in Acts 3, we may never be physically paralyzed. We may never do jail time like we read in Daniel 6. We may never see what it's like to be in Egyptian prison like Joseph. But all these things are much greater than just a story that we read. There's deeper meanings to them all. There's meanings to not just another story. We have the very first automatic doors in Acts 16 with Paul and Silas. We have these stories and they're great, and we see the deliverance. We see the end process, and we see this. And even though we're not dealing with a physical paralysis, we're dealing with an emotional and spiritual paralysis. We're dealing with the paralysis of the mind, and we're paralyzed in our mind. And there's people who've been wounded through the journey of life, because life is life. Life happens, and sometimes you don't always get to pick the greatest scenario, but life just comes, and when life hits you and hits you and hits you and hits you and then hits you some more, and when you didn't think life could hit you some more, it hits you again. And it could be consequences of your own bad actions that you don't realize, or it could be through the unjust actions of others. But we need a spiritual awakening of our minds. We need to not be trapped. We need to not have our minds be imprisoned anymore. And that's the worst type of imprisonment, is the mind. Because when you're a prisoner of your mind and you hurt so much, what we do is we actually close everything off. And we shut the door, and we make ourselves trapped in our own house, and we shut the door so nothing else can come in. But if nothing can come in and that door's shut, that means nothing can go out. So we've closed the door, and we've decided that we're not going to open it. We're going to just stay trapped in our own minds. We're just going to stay trapped. And I'd rather deal with the torment of my mind than allow anything else to come in. I'd rather deal with the fear. I'd rather deal with the depression, the anxiety, the hate, the anger, the betrayal. I'd rather deal with all this torment in my house because I'm familiar with it. I've gotten used to playing with the demons so much that instead of accidentally inviting more, I'd rather just play with them. And if I open that door, then more can come in. And I'd rather just deal with what I'm dealing with now than risk opening the door again. And then we've gotten so familiar, and we've gotten accustomed to it. And now it's just every day, and it's just every moment, and we can't get past because we've trapped our minds in such a way. And we'd rather be tormented in the mind. We'd rather be something tearing us up on the inside, and we hold ourselves hostage, and it's a prison because we don't want anything else, because we're scared of something else, or we've gotten so used to it. Now we're familiar with it. We don't feel everything we used to feel because our hearts have gotten hardened so much, and our mind is just trapped. And we're drowning ourselves in this and that, and we wake up every day and it's just, I'm trapped, and I don't like life. I feel this way, and I just don't know what to do, and I have this thing that I've been told since childhood. I've had this environment I've been in for years, and I have this person and that person that are in my life, and they've created such a way that even though I hate them, even though I hate the person, they've been in such an influence in my life, I can't help but keep them there, and I don't even like it, but I can't imagine it without them, because then I'm voiding something. There's a hole, and I don't know what I'm going to put in there to fix it, and I'd rather just deal with all of this. I'd rather just wake up every day feeling this way. And you just always go back to it. It seems like no matter how hard I pray, no matter how hard I seek, no matter how much I read words that are in this Bible, and I don't understand that, I don't understand this. I try. I come to the altar. I have the minister put oil on my head. I speak in tongues. I mean, I do everything I thought I'm supposed to do, and there's just still no victory in word. We go back, we sit down in our house, and we just let that torment continue to build. As a man thinketh. As a man thinketh. As a man thinketh. We have got to have a changed mindset. Because you are the only one who can open that door. God can't open the door for you. You have to open that door up and allow something else to happen. Or you will be trapped there. And it don't feel good. But sometimes opening that door feels even worse. Because we know what happened the last time we opened it. Last time I opened it, well, I got this came in, and this came in some more. And it seems like no matter what, the moment I do open that door, something else happens. It's because you've not had a change of mindset. You have to envision, you have to imagine, you have to focus on whatever's pure, whatever's noble, whatever's praiseworthy, whatever God has done, whatever God is going to do. Imagine the healing, imagine the freedom, imagine everything you can. Only you can open the door. So I challenge you to open the door, but you can't just open it to open it. You've got to be released from your prison, because if not, change will never happen. You'll be the same today as you were yesterday, as you are tomorrow. Nothing will happen. God will not come down with some divine miracle and just magically change you. Because if He does, you'll go right back to it if your mind isn't changed. You have got to have a change in mindset. It is so important. It is so important. You have a mindset on prayer. You have a mindset to do this. You have a mindset to do this. You have a mindset to worship. You have a mindset to praise. You have a mindset to think on godly things. Mind management. What are you meditating on? What are you allowing your brain to be shaped by? What are you allowing? What patterns, what habits are you doing in your life that have caused this or that? So I challenge you today, as the singers sing and First Lady plays piano, I challenge you today to have a different mindset, to imagine you no longer trapped, to imagine freedom, to imagine healing, to imagine this, imagine that, imagine. But you've got to keep that. You've gotten word. You've got to hold on to that word. Because life is going to come, the enemy's going to come, and he's going to throw you something and make you lose that word. Are you going to hang on to it? Are you going to sustain that word and let it manifest something? And that choice is yours.